What's up, Rangers? Welcome to the Geek. My name's Steve, and today we don't have Arnes to help me out with this review, sadly. Pretty convenient, though, that he had to be out of town for this review. Yeah, especially with all the comment section on this one. On the previous one, I should say, being so positive towards this movie. So I'm going to go over it for you guys with my guest co-host for today, Gabara. But today we're going to be going over the film Rebirth of Mothra 2. If you guys haven't seen the movie, this old civilization called Kanai creates this water monster called Gabara, which I think in the movie they call him Dagala. That's literally how it sounds in the film. They create the monster to help stop the pollution. Come to find out, monster just creates more pollution, and the civilization ends up going under with the monster. But the monster ends up coming back, and we need the help of a bunch of children. Gogo, I think that's how you say his name's Ghogo, which is a little fuzzball monster that pees on people, and some older guys that are not good guys or bad guys, depending on what part of the film you're watching, in order to go to Kanai in order to stop the monster and get the secret treasure. So before I get into the plot, I just want to point out that I'm a little bit biased in this movie because it's actually the first Rebirth of Mothra I was actually able to see, and it's the only one I currently own a VHS, which I have the Blu-ray set of all three of them now because that was the only way I could see the third movie. But I remember going to my first G-Fest and actually getting a hold of this VHS, watching it, and I actually liked it when I was a kid. Really actually enjoyed this movie. Because for the most part, the plot kind of, I don't want to say it has, like, it reminds me of Yu-Gi-Oh!, but I think it's just mainly the pyramids and the mazes and stuff like that. Like, that's what it really reminds me of Yu-Gi-Oh! In a sense. But I always thought it was a pretty cool movie for kids. But, for the plot of this film, sucks watching it when you're an adult. Because for the most part, other than it does have a pretty coherent story throughout the entirety of the film, it really devolves into a lot of your disbeliefs having to leave you in order to believe a lot of what's happening. Now, this is a giant monster movie, so already belief is just suspended for me. But there are times like when Belvera shoots the one kid when he's trying to catch the Go-Go, kid goes flying like good 100 feet, and he's okay. Then again, the Go-Go kind of pees on his leg and heals him, so, and there's that whole thing, which we'll get into that in a few with the special effects later on. There's scenes where adults and kids have to jump super far and make it successfully. There's scenes where they have to jump off a pyramid, but the height difference isn't really make sense because the monster, as you can clearly see, we're fighting underwater in front of the pyramid, so it has to be pretty stupid deep. But when Mothra parts the water and the guys jump off and they don't get hurt, and it's really confusing sometimes what's happening. And the plot of this movie is really, really heavily geared towards children because kids are the plot of this movie. And they work better than the last ones. Like, it's not a whole lot of nitpicking and crying, and I hate you, wham wham. This one, they actually kind of fight at the beginning, but then they just all of a sudden start working together, which, in terms of, like, plot devices, doesn't work out the best. But when I was younger, definitely was a little more suitable. But there's still a lot of weird things that happen, like the Go-Go literally peeing on everything. Well, sorry, two people and then everyone towards the end of the movie. You have the adults that actually beat up on the children, which I don't think would fly too well today. Like, it's not like kind of beating up, but, you know, like pulling on the noses, yanking them, and literally tries to kidnap the girl at one point, even though they met the girl earlier and they seemed very friendly with her mom. But then when they met Belvera, they all of a sudden became bad guys for reasons. It wasn't like she was coercing them most of the time. Like, they just were being bad guys, and then they all of a sudden became good guys at the end. So it jumps around a lot, doesn't really explain anything, doesn't transition very well. But the plot does have a decent amount of structure and pacing, though, unlike the last one, where I felt like it was just a lot of back and forth and a lot of stuff we've seen already, and then the movie just kind of ends abruptly. While in this one, you get your reasoning why they have to go to Kanai at the beginning of the movie. Monster shows up, does some damage, then Mothra shows up, they get their little fighting on, Mothra starts losing, kids are running around the pyramid. Then when it seems like it's getting really bad for Mothra, kids save the day, yada yada yada, it's a kids movie. Nothing bad's gonna happen to the Mothra in this one. So for me, the movie, plot-wise, a lot of better pacing issues than the last one, but is a little bit more geared towards children, which is something you're gonna have to deal with. So Gabara, what'd you think of the plot? Alright, I guess we'll move on to the suits, where we have Mothra Leo, which, pretty much the same Mothra we got in the last movie towards the end of the film, where he's very colorful, very pretty. Not too much else I can really explain other than the previous one. Which I will say is probably my third favorite in the series, with the heisei Mothra being my favorite in terms of looks. I personally love that Mothra. And the second one being Aqua Mothra that comes from this movie, because I really love the flying fish appearance that it has, and definitely works with the color scheme. Kind of reminds me of, again, like a flying fish, a shark, and just the wings look super cool on it. I like the moveset that it has, and it gives Mothra something that it was really lacking, and that it couldn't really do anything to any monster underwater. Now it's cool that Mothra can fight things in space, on land, and in the water. The monster literally is unbeatable now. Or so we think. We gotta wait till the next movie for that one. And then we got Gabara, who is a little bit weird, but I still think really, really cool. I kind of wish that its wing fin thing on the back expanded more, so when it was like flying around, it actually looked like wings, where it just was like weird floppy fin things that were just kind of floating there. That's my really only cosmetic issue with the Kaiju, but I think it's really cool that it has like little arms and then its back legs are still like finny in proportion, but it's still enough to like for the suit actor has someplace to put his legs and can move around with it. Really like how it has like the giant long tail. It has a very more Godzilla headish in appearance. But my issue with all three of these suits in terms of fighting is none of these guys are really meant to be close quarter combat Kaiju. Because in the entire movie, it's pretty much one giant aerial dogfight. Even underwater, still looks like an aerial dogfight at the end of the movie, where everything's just kind of flying around, shooting things. There's like one or two bites that happen in the movie, especially when Mothra gets dragged underwater, and then you're like, oh no! But that's kind of the way the Kaijus are designed in this, because the one's an underwater monster, so it's not going to really built around too much close contact fighting. And it's a giant moth. Like, what are you going to do? There's no Mothra larva that have to bite on something's tail. And then we have a return of Fairy and Gabara, which Fairy looks pretty much the same as the last film, so nothing too impressive there. Gabara looks a little bit different, because it has a little bit more of a cybernetic body now, but you don't get quite as many close-up shots of it in this movie, because I felt like the Eliases and Belvera didn't really have as much of a role in this movie as they did in the previous one, which works pretty well for me, because we have that really horribly done scene where they summon Mothra, and it looks like a really bad music video. I hate that scene so much in this movie, though. That's like the one part where I'm like, and Facebook time. Gabara, do you have any problem with the suits? Well, it's still better commentary than Arnes. Am I right? Yeah! And then finally we have these special effects, which is actually pretty cool in this movie. Because with the monster fights, even though I complained a lot that it's more like aerial dogfights and not a whole lot of fighting, because a lot of it is beam fest upon beam fest upon beam fest. One complaint I really have with the Heisei series is not a whole lot of fighting. It's beams. But it's cool looking because the monsters still have a lot of variety in the attacks that they do. With like Gabara shooting beams out of his mouth, shoots missiles out of his shoulders. Pretty cool. Even makes like a cyclone starfish attack. Pretty neat. Then Mothra has the tri-beam, shoot tummy lasers, just like in the Mothra larva form, lightning wings, you name it, Mothra could probably do it. And even Aqua Mothra, as we were saying, effects-wise, looks really cool. Gorgo pees on people, which looks like it's actually peeing on people. It foams up. Kind of creepy. I guess it gives the movie a little bit more entertainment value, because especially when I first watched the movie as a kid, I was just like, what the? So that still really works, especially at the end of the movie when, spoiler alert, the Gorgo sacrifices itself to give Mothra its transformation ability, where it floats up in the air and literally explodes in the water particles, which I am assuming is more urine, spraying over people, and everybody's like, yay! He's saving us! It's so pretty! Just like, it's literally peeing on everyone. I hope you know that. But a lot of like the practical uses of CG still work in this movie too, like with the kids on the invisible bridge, still works pretty well for me. When Mothra spreads the water, works really well for me. Even though you gotta still suspend your disbelief, but we already went over that. So I give this movie a lot of props, even with the special effects, because they don't actually use a whole lot of it in this film. It's a lot of like set pieces, which are cool. Like even the pyramid actually looks pretty awesome. But it would have been maybe nice to see a little bit more of like a military presence in this movie, with like tanks or jets or something that's confronting this guy other than just pretty much Mothra. Because it does go on a rampage through the city, but it's kind of whatever. It's almost the obligatory monster has to destroy something in the movie, so we had to have that scene. Any input on the props, Gabara? Alright, so I guess I'm just going to conclude this, because, yeah, this isn't going anywhere. So, in the end, for Rebirth of Mothra 2, I personally like this movie better than the previous one, only because I think the plot is structured a little bit better, and I do enjoy the Kaiju still, the fights are cool. Overall, I still find enjoyment in this movie, even out of the weirdness factor that this movie presents. But it's definitely a lot more geared towards kids, which I can see turning off a lot of people. Pretty much the story of this movie is pretty much a direct-for-TV kids movie that we get nowadays. Not a whole lot there, but enough to keep the kids happy. But for an older kaiju fan, you're probably going to be looking for something a little bit more, which we might get out of the next movie. So, Gabara. You know, I'm just done. I'm done. I'll see you guys later. If you guys decide to watch Rebirth of Mothra, please let me know in the comment section below. And whatever.
Well, if he's not gonna say it, I guess I will. And help us defeat those kaijus by hitting that like button. Subscribe, become a ranger today, and see you guys in the next video. Bye bye.